the pod at DBSJP.
I'm David.
I'm Maya.
And welcome back to DBSJP the pod. So today we may not sound like your regular hosts, and that's because we're not. I'm the secondary head boy, and next to me we have the secondary head girl. So Maya, how are your classes going?
I don't know if they're going so well, David, honestly. I'm not so sure if I'm doing so well. I'm not sure if my teachers like me. I don't know if I can get the grades I'm supposed to.
Well, luckily for you, today our topic is about self-doubt. We're going to talk about self-doubt in school, outside of school, and for adults as well. So first of all, Maya, what is self-doubt?
Self-doubt is doubting your abilities. It's having a lack of confidence in your abilities as a person, like David said, academically or personally. And this can apply to many different aspects of life. And if you're not self-aware, it can really be harmful.
Very special fact, human beings are the only species on this planet to experience self-doubt. No other species, no other mammal experience self-doubt apart from humans. So today, alongside me and Maya, we have very special guests next to us.
We've got Ellie Mia Toland, our deputy head girl.
Hi guys, so I'm going to be talking to you about examples of self-doubt so you can be more aware of when your thoughts are going more into that territory. So if I speak from personal experience, being in the performing arts, I 100% compare myself to others, and that forces me to doubt my own abilities and if my self-worth. And so being able to understand those thoughts and that comparison, I then am able to understand that that is just a symptom of self-doubt and that I need to retract and look at the bigger picture. Another great example that Maya has already spoken about is in class. If you're doubting the knowledge that you have, you need to understand that you are a human being and that your knowledge, as infinite as it is, you also need to care about it, and you cannot compare yourself to someone else's knowledge.
Ellie, can I just ask you, how does self-doubt make you feel?
A very powerful word that comes to mind is very worthless, if I'm very honest. In performing arts, I have to sell myself as a person, not only my knowledge, but what I can physically bring to the table. And if I'm not good enough, if I don't look good enough, or if I'm not as flexible, then casting directors and agents completely disregard me and I become worthless.
And how do you usually get over that self-doubt?
Well, it's taken quite a few years, if I'm very honest. It's just been about believing in myself, and it's not really about others telling me that I'm worth something. It's about me believing it, and that takes a while. But you need to learn to love yourself, which sounds cringy.
Alright, so next person, we have a very special guest.
We've got Jonathan, who's going to talk about the cases of self-doubt out of school.
Yep, so hi guys. As I'm head of sport, I'd like to talk about self-doubt in sport and what self-doubt does to you. So self-doubt gives you an inability to perform because you feel like you're under pressure, and this will affect the way, if you play team sports, it will affect the way you play as a team. It will also affect individual sports on a much greater level, just because it's solely you that's dependent on that performance. I see self-doubt as more of like a coping mechanism, so you feel like you get to stay within your comfort zone. And if you're facing, for example, what people would deem a superior player or a superior team, you may feel like you can lose that game because they are better than you on a general level. But if you continue to doubt yourself, you'll never perform to a point where you'll be able to beat that team, and you'll inhibit your ability to grow as a sports person.
And you personally, how do you overcome that doubt of feeling a person or a team having a better skill level than you?
Yes, so there's been times, especially school football, where we've come up against stronger teams, and as a unit we've felt that it's going to be a tough game to beat this other team, and especially in team sports. A way to mitigate self-doubt is to speak to each other, to talk to each other before the game, hype each other up, and make each other feel like you're a valued member of that team, and you will perform as a unit. So in sport, with team sports mainly, it's communication. With self sports, there's a lot of sports people that have rituals, like pre-game rituals, that help them get in a zone where they feel comfortable and they mitigate self-doubt and they kind of block out their surroundings.
Next up, we have a very special guest, teacher of psychology, so he should be very experienced into self-doubt.
We've got Mr. Hodgson.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me on the podcast. What I'd say about self-doubt as an adult is there's no off switch. You don't suddenly change from having self-doubt to being purely confident. It's a transition over time, and it comes from our experiences in life and things that occur whereby which we feel accomplished, or in some cases we don't feel that we've done as well as we can. Our experiences and our mindsets play a huge part, and you'll be familiar with the fixed and growth mindsets, and it very much is about having that growth mindset and accepting failure as part of a process. We learn from those failures, and then that self-doubt reduces. Our self-efficacy plays a huge part, so again I'm going to go back to that experience, and as you transition from being a young person to an adult, the challenges and the experiences that you have change, and they may become far less academic and perhaps more emotional focused or professional focused, and it's how you deal with that. We are our biggest own critics, and that voice in our head telling us that we can't do something can be pivotal. And it's about, even as you transition, making use of the support from those people around you, taking that objective feedback of how you've done something well versus what you could do differently, and seeing that as an opportunity to improve rather than a failure. We learn and we change our mindset, and it's about making sure that we give ourselves credit for when things go right. We strive for perfection, but actually our vision of perfection and what others expect of us and what is seen as a success can be very different.
Mr. Hodgson, can you give us a real-life example of what this might look like and what ways a person would have to overcome it?
So I'm going to use emotional trauma. So I'm going to go back to when I was studying my A-levels, and my grandfather passed away about 2 weeks before my A-levels. And for me, there was that huge self-doubt about whether I had what it took to study and just gain grades, not even good grades in my eyes, just gain those grades. At the time, I was living away from my family, supporting my grandmother, and there was huge self-doubt. But the best bit of advice that was given to me was just trust the process, allow the healing process to occur, and just keep doing what I'm doing, and it will pay off. And it was an added challenge, and the self-doubt continued. But I worked hard, and I followed the advice and the guidance of those around me, and actually by the end of it, I came out with grades that I was very happy with, given the circumstances, and given the work that I put in.
Thank you.
Mr. Hodgson, so like I mentioned before, you're a very experienced, amazing psychology teacher. Speaking more about terminology, what do you teach your students about self-doubt and how to get over that?
I think the advice that I give, and I say this to every class when I first teach, I'm not looking for perfection. Those grades, especially if we compare the difference between GCSE and A-level, there's a huge step, and success doesn't come straight away, and it is just trusting the process, following the advice and guidance of those around you, not just people in school but outside of school as well, and appreciating that failure does equal success. If we look at the most successful people in the world who would have had self-doubt at some point in their lives, they would have experienced failure. It's how we then bounce back from that, demonstrate resilience, and move forwards whilst learning from those mistakes, that feeds into that self-efficacy and builds our belief and ultimately reduces that self-doubt. Self-doubt never goes away, but it's how we then manage that self-doubt that allows us to move forwards.
Okay. So like Ellie, Jonathan, and Mr. Hodgson mentioned, self-doubt can be felt on all different terms, physically, socially, and emotionally. So emotionally, like Ellie mentioned, self-doubt can make you feel like you're worthless. It can make you feel like you can't do something. It can make you feel like you're not good enough. Physically, like Jonathan mentioned, it can make you feel like you're not good enough to participate in certain activities, to not contribute with other people who are better than you. And socially, it can make you feel like you're not good enough to talk to people. You don't have the confidence, you don't have the mindset to go into that conversation and feel like you're part of a group or a part of a certain amount of people. So those are just a few ways that self-doubt can make you feel. So Maya, can you please give us some solutions on these?
I think it's really interesting to consider how you can use self-doubt in a way that can help you most. So, for example, see ways in which you can benefit from self-doubt, such as seeing where it can point out different areas within your feelings. Maybe you can start to notice a pattern in what weaknesses you think you might have. In class, I might think, I don't know if I'm going to do good in an exam. And if I get that repetitively, I can look back on it and I can say, well, what is it that's making me feel that way? And you can kind of, I guess, self-therapy your way into it, if that's correct, Mr. Hodgson. You can kind of really delve deeper, ask yourself questions and prompts to really go to the core and realize what it is causing you to make you feel this way. And that could be a way which you can overcome it. So I think one of the main solutions, because as Mr. Hodgson mentioned, it will never go away, is seeing how you can make it part of who you are and embrace it to help you for the best. And as well, of course, it would never hurt to get some reassurance from trusted people like teachers or family or friends, and as well just affirming to yourself every day that you are doing good enough.
So to conclude, self-doubt is very much felt in the mind. Self-doubt is something that our brains create to make problems and to procrastinate from doing certain tasks. Like I said before, certain other mammals do not experience self-doubt, but we are the only ones because we have high enough thinking levels to experience these thoughts, to stop us from doing things that we may not feel comfortable doing, to stop us from doing things that we may not want to do. But in the end, sorry for if this sounded like a depressing conversation, but it's actually not, because in the end, a lot of people in this world are going to experience self-doubt. A lot of students, a lot of teachers, a lot of elderly people, everybody experiences self-doubt. But it's the way that you control it, it's the way that you handle it. Because if you put your mind to something, you know you can do it. It doesn't matter if you feel like you can't. As long as you do it, you're going to feel that feeling of accomplishment. Because you've done something you know that is very hard to do. You've done something many other people haven't done in their lives. So, thank you guys for tuning in to DBSJP The Pod, and we hope to see you next time.